Happy holidays, everybody, and welcome back to Brainstorm Lore. In my first series of Brainstorm Lore videos, I addressed the origin stories of various sci-fi and fantasy universes. And now, after 2 full Why Do We Care videos, it's time to pick up where I left off. And what better place to start than a return to Tolkien and Middle-earth. Welcome to the Years of the Lamps, and an introduction to the Valar. Shortly after they created the world of Arda by singing it into existence, the majority of the Ainur descended to live upon the newly made world. The Ainur were divided into 2 groups. The first were the Valar, the 15, including the rebellious Melkor in those early days, strongest of the Ainur. They were each akin to a kind of polytheistic god. Second were the Maiar, an unknown but presumably large number of lesser spirits whose main purpose was to serve each of the Valar in various capacities. Upon their arrival in Arda, they discovered that their newly made world was flat, a single continent surrounded by ocean. They also found it completely devoid of life and of light, for there was neither sun nor moon. Apart from the stars, the only light source was a faintly glowing mist that clung to the ground. It was around this time that Melkor, the most powerful of the Valar, decided to launch his first war against his kindred. 1, because he was still smarting from Ilúvatar's chastisement of him during the Song of Creation, and 2, because instead of him, the other Valar chose Manwë to be their leader. And so he decided that if he could not rule this new world, he would destroy it instead, purely out of spite. I mentioned this conflict very briefly at the end of the Origins video, and that's because there really isn't much detail about this conflict, or anything regarding the Years of the Lamps. Melkor and those Maiar allied with him made their attack, the Valar fought back, and Melkor was ultimately defeated by Tulkas, the last of the Valar to arrive, and he and his allies fled with their tails between their legs. With that out of the way, the Valar, under the leadership of Manwë, started to prepare the world for the mortal races, the so-called Children of Ilúvatar. They collected the glowing mist that covered the ground and concentrated it into 2 lamps, named Ilúin and Ormal. Then Aule, the smith and craftsman of the Valar, constructed a pair of towers, 1 for each lamp. Ilúin was set atop the tower Helkar in the north, and Ormal set atop the tower Ringol in the south. Thus, Arda got some proper light for a change, and with the coming of light came the coming of life in an event known as the First Spring. Flowers, grass, trees, and other growing things covered the land. Beasts of all shapes and sizes ran or crawled atop the earth, fish swam in the seas, and birds flew among the clouds. All in all, Arda was shaping up to be a wonderful place to live. The Valar, satisfied with their labors, moved to the Great Lake at the center of the single continent, and settled upon an island in the center of that lake called Almaren to rest from their work. And that was when they made their first mistake. Melkor, ever vigilant and now twice as bitter, had not been idle. While the rest of his kindred had been shaping the world, Melkor had gone to the farthest north, even beyond the northern lamp of Ilúin. There he raised the Iron Mountains and his great dark fortress of Utumno. Then, when he saw that the other Valar had relaxed their vigilance against him, he made his move. Sallying forth from his fortress, he destroyed both lamps, and then fled back to his fortress pursued by the vengeful Valar. They did manage to capture him, but it was already too late. The destruction of the lamps resulted in a cataclysm that split the single continent into 4. Aman in the west, the Land of the Sun in the east, the Dark Land in the south, and Middle-earth in the north and center of the ocean. And that's pretty much it for the Years of the Lamps. There really wasn't much going on during this early period in Middle-earth's history. So instead, the rest of this video will be dedicated to the Valar, as they would come to play major roles in both the Years of the Trees and the First Age. The Valar are each the equivalent of an ancient polytheistic god, and that's how I'm going to refer to them for the rest of this video. First is Manwë, chosen by the Valar to be their leader because he best understood the mind of Ilúvatar himself, even though he was never the most powerful. He is the god of air and wind, essentially Zeus if he was capable of marital fidelity. The thing to keep in mind about Manwe is that unlike Melkor, he was utterly incapable of evil. But this also meant he was incapable of understanding evil, a blind spot that Melkor would more than happily take advantage of in the centuries to come. But even if Melkor could put one over on the king of the Valar, he would not be nearly so fortunate with their queen, Varda, wife of Manwe, Lady of Light and the Stars, especially beloved by the elves who pray to her as Elbereth. Varda had been the very first to see the evil in Melkor and had always been his enemy. As a result, he hated her more than any of the others, and she was one of 3 Valar that Melkor actually feared. Next is Ulmo, god of water. The oceans, the rivers, the lakes, even water beneath the earth, all are his domain. He is the closest friend of Manwe, even though where Manwe is loved by the mortal races, Ulmo tends to strike fear in any who happen to look upon him. Not that he seems to mind. Like Varda, he too has always been suspicious of Melkor, and also happens to be the second of the 3 which Melkor fears. For the ocean is something that not even Melkor, mightiest of the Ainur, could ever hope to control. Ulmo also happens to be only one of 2 Valar who remains unmarried. Next is Aule, the god of the earth and the smith of the Valar. Of all the Valar, he was the one who was closest to Melkor in nature, for both liked to make things, though where Aule strove to be faithful to Iluvatar's original intent, Melkor ultimately sought to subvert it. Next is Aule's wife, Yavanna, the fruit giver, Tolkien's version of Demeter. It was she who planted the first seeds and brought forth all green and growing things. Next is Orome, the huntsman of the Valar, and his wife Vana the Ever-Young. Where most of the Valar were content to remain where they were in Almaren and later in Valinor after the Age of the Lamps, Orome was a wanderer, always restless, always looking for new things. He is another god with a special relationship with the elves. Next is Nienna, the Lady of Mercy. She is the embodiment of grief and spends most of her time weeping for the suffering others have endured, mostly at the hands of Melkor. But she is also a goddess of hope and pity, and is always willing to give others a second chance, even Melkor. Like Ulmo, she is unmarried. Next are the brothers of Nienna, Namo and Irmo, more commonly referred to as Mandos and Lorien, respectively. Mandos is the lord and judge of the dead, and is married to Vere, the weaver, who spends her day spinning the tapestry of history. Lorien, meanwhile, is the master of sleep and dreams. He is another favorite of the elves, proven by the fact that Lothlorien was named for him, and he is married to Este, the goddess of healing. Last, but certainly not least, is Tulkas, the warrior god, and the 3rd Valar whom Melkor fears. This is probably due to the fact that Tulkas is always the one who beats Melkor to a pulp every time he tries to make trouble. His wife is Nessa, the Swift, the sister of Orome. She loves to run and has a fondness for all creatures that are swift of foot. Deer are her particular favorite. With that, the players are now in place, and the true story of Middle-earth can now begin in earnest. Next week will be about the planting of the 2 trees, the imprisonment of Melkor, and Aule's botched attempt to create life. Until then. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and check out our website at studiobrainstorm.net. And if you have a story that you think is worth telling, we are more than happy to help you publish it. Thank you, and have a nice day.